Over the past 4 years, Kamala and crooked Joe Biden have presided over an economic reign of terror, committing one financial atrocity after another. As Vice President, Kamala cast the deciding votes that caused the worst inflation in American history. You're all victims of it. We all are. Everybody is a victim of it. It's a nation buster.
That was former President Trump hammering Vice President Kamala Harris over the Biden-Harris administration's track record on the economy. But Harris was quick to defend Bidenomics during her first sit-down interview as nominee, instead blaming Trump for the country's high costs.
You are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability. One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, I mean, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis.
You have been vice president for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
The steps that you're talking about now, why haven't you done them already?
Well, first of all, we had to recover as an economy, and we have done that. I'm very proud of the work that we have done.
She also goes on to brag about inflation falling to less than 3%. It was actually lower when they took office than it is now. Paul, I want to get your thoughts on how she handled very predictable questions about the economy.
Yeah, she looked uncomfortable, sort of pained, like she was against the wall, and that had to be the most obvious question she knew was coming at her. I'll go back to what I said earlier. She has to own it all if she's going to talk about the fact that we did this and we did that. Again, I didn't see her own or do anything for 3.5, 4 years. But if you're going to own it all, then you have to own the bad stuff with it, which means the Afghan pullout, the porous border, lawfare against Donald Trump. We could go on and on. So if you're going to own the bad stuff, you own the good stuff, rather, you have to own the bad stuff as well. And really, that's where she should have been pressed. And everybody knows a good interview is not about the first question. It's about the follow-up question. It's about the second, because the first one, you're just going to get the rote response. And this wasn't a softball. This was a wiffle ball interview.
And she listed the things that she's put out before, the $25,000 for new home buyers, the child tax credit, but we still lack the clarity on the specifics on how it's being paid for. The follow-up questions, what you're talking about, Emily.
Right, and her team came out and said she offered a new way forward. What exactly was that? When she talked about an opportunity economy, what do you mean, capitalism? What you haven't advocated for so long? I felt that, you know, to what we were talking about a moment ago, she has no command over experience. And I said this yesterday with you, that for a vice president who has spent many years in service as a senator, an AG, et cetera, that she likes to remind us, she is zero drawn on experience whatsoever to reassure me that she on a daily basis is actually in total command of information and experience. And you contrast that with J.D. Vance, who's an incredible encyclopedic speaker about statistics and experiences in legislature. Where is that from our vice president? This is supposed to be a candidate for president, the best of the best. And yet she strikes me as not only not even a figurehead, but not capable of holding an ounce of the positions she has. And she, frankly, to your point, to me, read as unprepared. Yes, she says those same over-rehearsed lines that she utters out, but there was no preparation there. All of her intro sentences seemed like she had a hubris and it was an affront to be even asked that. I was really underwhelmed.
Leslie, there was a lot of buildup to this. How much would she embrace Bidenomics? How much of the last 3 years of her administration would she own? Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, it's not her administration, it's Joe Biden.
Biden-Harris administration.
And last time I checked, I think we all went to the same history class and read the same Constitution. There's only 2 jobs a vice president has, specifically. One is to be in charge of the Senate and be the tiebreaker, which she and those who have been on the right have done as well. And second is basically you're sitting in wait in case the president becomes ill.
So you're making the argument she's not responsible for the economy?
No, she's not.
In any way at all. And then how can she claim credit for the successes?
She's part of the Biden administration. You have to remember, first of all, this is unprecedented what has happened, not just in my party, but in this election, okay? You have Joe Biden, who was on the ticket. Now she's on the ticket. The people that were upset with Joe Biden, and we were seeing it, it was really especially post that debate age, okay? And we've seen the enthusiasm, nearly 80% enthusiasm in my party. You know, we haven't seen numbers like that since Barack Obama. But because I want to get all my numbers right, here's what we do have that is Bidenomics and that my party should talk about, and she is vice president in that administration, and that she's continuing in that vein economically. You have GDP growth up. Under Trump, 2.6%, under Biden, 3.5%. Inflation just over 3%. It was 6% actually when Trump first took office in his first 42 days. We have record stock market highs. The Feds are going to lower the rate, and the list goes on and on. And so, you know, she is going to continue on with Bidenomics, and that's why she hails his administration, which she's vice president of, that she will continue to do if she were president.
Tommy, what do you make of that argument, that it's just not her fault?
Well, I hope that she uses the term Bidenomics, and I hope that she runs with it, because Americans don't like Bidenomics. There's a reason that Biden stopped using Bidenomics and all of his aides stopped using Bidenomics, because it wasn't working. He wasn't feeling the plight and the hardship of the American people. Simply telling everybody things are okay when they're not feeling that they're okay wasn't working. It's not going to work for Kamala either. But what strikes me when she's asked about the economy, I think of Joe Biden. Joe Biden at one time could have answered that question. Maybe not today because of other issues, but at one point, Joe Biden could have answered that question. I might not have liked it, but he could have given you an answer. We didn't really get much of an answer from Kamala. And what also bothers me is, in terms of the economy, her first instinct when she had to put a policy forward was essentially price fixing, which was a horrible idea by everyone's account, even yours, Leslie. We talked about it last week on this very network.
And that's something we
bothers
didn't
me.
get clarity on either.
Exactly. She said that she wants to stop price gouging, but then it's price fixing. So how are you going to do that? I wish there would have been more follow-up into how are you going to create your opportunity economy? We didn't get that.
Yeah. When is the next interview? When is the first press conference? We're still waiting. It's going to be exciting.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.